Black Talk Media Project would like to invite you to become a member of the BTR Community subscription-based social media platform. BTR Community is a platform that was set up for the listening audience of Black Talk Radio Network, the #1 independent Black radio network online. For just $24 per year, your subscription gives you access to an interactive space to share information with like-minded people with your privacy guaranteed. Your subscription will go a long way to help us maintain and improve our current media platforms. It will also help provide a budget so that we can begin the task of establishing localized media centers and radio stations across the United States. The best way to show your support and appreciation for what we do here at Black Talk Radio is to subscribe. Help us to help you be informed. Join btrcommunity.com today.
The views and opinions expressed by callers, guests, and hosts do not necessarily reflect those of the Black Talk Radio Network and Black Talk Media Project. Black Talk Radio is new black media for the new millennium. Ms. Burrell, you can start.
Okay. Hello. I'm Aunyx Burrell. I'm a mompreneur of going on almost 6 years now. So that's actually what I'll be discussing today. Mompreneurship, mom life, momming while making it happen. So I'm going to try to keep it focused on handling business while also kind of raising a family. So I guess I will start off by going ahead and sharing a little bit about my personal experience, and then I'll answer a few frequently asked questions I get from other mompreneurs, and then, time permitting, we will take some callers on the line to answer their questions as well. So quick note. I do not look at having children as a setback or an obstacle for business or career-minded women. The key word there is minded. There's always going to be reasons not to work towards your goals. So your mindset and attitude are pretty big factors as it pertains to this. So, being a mom is not an excuse to be slack or an excuse not to be present and show up in your business. So that's not where we're coming from. I don't believe our children are a reason to quit, generally speaking. So if everyone's healthy, go for it. You can definitely have a family and have a thriving business as well. So I have a feeling a mom out there really needs to hear that. So I just wanted to share that real quick. So about my journey, my daughter, my first child, was a honeymoon baby. So my husband and I got pregnant a few weeks after we got married. But not only did it happen a few weeks after our marriage, it happened when we had just moved across the country with no support system in place. So pretty lost in the sauce, new. Okay, so long story short, we did not fully plan for her arrival. Bless her heart. I love her. I love my daughter so much, but she was not a part of the short-term goals list. Okay, so At the time, I was running a portrait company, which, as many of you know, is not the stablest of income. At least mine was not. So it was good when it was good. It was not when it was not. But regardless, I was determined to grow it and make it work. So let's talk about what did work when balancing baby and business. And, of course, I'll try to recall what did not work as well. So, excuse me, I'm working out a little cold over here. What did work? From the beginning to the end of my pregnancy, I was able to keep working for myself and maintain a relatively low stress level. I was more freaked out about labor than anything else, being a first-time mom. So my focus was more on staying clear-headed and grounded rather than the grind. So I spent the early months trying to sneak in my little moments of relaxation as much as possible, because I knew the harder part would be the last few months. So I was swimming all the time, reading all the time, reading about the babies and reading about business and trying to keep up with that, So, I mean, we still had expenses to pay. And with our new addition to the fam, it wasn't really feasible to, not work on my business. We needed both of our incomes. So I was definitely trying to make that work by any means necessary. So thankfully, my husband was very accommodating, so I got to give him credit there. He helped do my follow-up calls and answer my clients' questions and stuff when I was not feeling well. He helped stage things and set up and break down our shoots, et cetera, et cetera. But, the daily operations were still met by me, marketing, shooting, doing the shooting, balancing the books, all that meat and potatoes was handled by me. But it was, it was a huge help to have someone to delegate a few tasks to. And he was literally the only person I had at that time. So my entire family was where we had left from. So I didn't have anybody else to call on for that, So, but I didn't want to let that stop me either. So I chose to look at the arrival of Kalina, is her name, as motivation to steer my business in the right direction because it was not doing well at the time. So it helped, shift my focus into doing what I could do to make it work. So I basically canceled all the things that weren't helping me move forward and then decided to go harder in the areas where I had my strong suits, So like up in the customer service factor and like really trying to focus on giving that experience for them, and getting out of my head and looking at, my current situation, being pregnant and scared and stuff like that, and really trying to get past that and focus on my customers' needs because at the end of the day, I made commitments to them. So I had to honor that. So one of the things I had to get rid of was being comfortable discounting my time and services. So, that absolutely had to go. I was already barely getting by, and making cuts to get the sale was not the business. So, instead I decided to juice up the packages and also raise the prices so that I could do less photo shoots and still, break even or make more potentially. So I had to make that decision. But, I was still booking clients up until the end of the pregnancy. So I was all like bursting at my seams when shooting, but none of my clients seemed to care. We still got the shots. I handled it pretty well and professional and like I always do, like I said, focusing on the customer and their needs. But, that's also the perk of that particular gig because you have creative control and you can be selective about your clients, not really being, having to take everybody. You could be selective. So if I sensed like from a phone call and setting up the appointment that they were going to be difficult or like diva-esque, then I wouldn't even bother booking them. At that point, my brother decided mindset and peace of mind was more important than anything else. So I started getting comfortable saying no to people and turning down clients, and it actually seemed to work out. So there was that. But, you know, had the baby. She was nice and healthy and beautiful. And, of course, you know, apple of my eye, love my life. But after I took some leave, I went back to shooting, and that's really where some things I ran into a little bit of issues. There was times when childcare was not really feasible, and so having a small baby is kind of hard, you know, to be holding a camera and trying to deal with the baby. That was a little bit extra, but that's when I decided to make that's when my make it work mantra was born. So I adopted that attitude and was like, make it work. No matter what happens, make it work. And still to this day, you know, inside jokes with some of the girls I worked with, they'll say that to me. What are you talking about? Make it work. Because there was times when cops have been called to my shoot to shut it down, things like that. I won't get into it anyway. But anyway, back to, you know, being mommy trying to run a portrait business. So I was a breastfeeder and completely attached to my baby girl. So it was hard for me to separate from her even for a few hours. I was stuck in the mindset of like no nipple confusion. I don't want to get into the details anyway. So I didn't really want to be apart from her. So I started bringing her with me. You know, I got over the fear of like thinking that I couldn't make it work. And so on the days when I couldn't get the childcare, rather than rescheduling or canceling and losing money, I decided to, you know, bring her with me. So I shifted my niche to just women and mothers and expectant mothers. And they all were very supportive. You know, she tagged along. She helped get them in a nice, happy place. So that was evident in their shoots. So, you know, they were happier, so to speak, I guess. So it was great, really. So I think the moral of the story there was, you know, whenever possible, you can actually include your children, because a lot of women are like, they don't want to. From a lot of the moms I'm talking to, like they look at the kids like they're a distraction. So it's hard for them to, you know, do that juggling act. But for all intents and purposes, for the time that I'm talking about, my daughter was like a little football. So like she could be handled. She wasn't doing too much anyway. And if she was hungry, I could just breastfeed her right there. So that was a perk too. That was a factor in my decision to breastfeed, was that I would be able to do it anywhere. So go breastfeeding. Anyway, so, you know, and besides that, including them is a good thing, because it's not only like having the positive effect on your clients, like they get to relate to you more and see you, you know, you're a family person. But it also instills that entrepreneurial mindset in your kids as well. So, you know, plant those seeds, ladies, watch them grow. So, anywho, now I ended up taking my last portrait client last week of my pregnancy with my second child. They're about 2 years apart, my son. And let me just tell you, it was not a good look. So now, I guess it's time to get into what did not work. The last photo shoot was for an engagement session with a couple. Spoiler alert, they never showed. But spoiler alert, that's not the worst part of the experience. So it was a really, really hot day. This was out in Hotlanta. It was like on the books 100 degrees. Now, at that time, whenever I would set up a shoot, I would always get there 20 minutes early to set up, make sure lighting was right, et cetera. So I was there early, and, you know, a half hour goes by, I'm exhausted, I'm sweating, I'm all kinds of pregnant or whatever. So I gave the couple like 10 minutes after their start time. Then I called to find out where they were. No answer. Texted, no answer. So again, it's like 100 degrees, 39 weeks pregnant. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I did not tell my husband I went to this gig because he insisted I take my leave about 2 weeks prior to that incident. So seems irrelevant, but let me finish. 100 degrees, 39 weeks pregnant, no couple. Time is passing, and then eventually the end of the session happens, and not a single shot was snapped. So, you know, I was all in my feelings a little bit. I left the shoot all extra disappointed. It was supposed to be my last shoot before I took my leave, and it didn't happen. So, you know, pregnancy emotions aside, it was a lot. So, you know, I kind of had to just suck it up and be like, you know, let it go and, like, go home. So, so I left, but it didn't take very long before I realized I needed to get gas. So I forgot to check before I left my house. So, I mean, like, usually it was full. I never had to worry about it, but lo and behold, on this day, it was not. So I knew I could make it to the gas station near my house, so I went for it. However, I was in an unfamiliar neighborhood, and at some point, I took a wrong turn and got lost. So I'd used my phone for GPS to get there, but that wasn't working either. It wasn't, like, getting signal, and it was dying. So it was like 1%. Like, how is this happening? You know, when one thing goes wrong, like, everything else seems to be coming down too. So, like, seriously, though, running out of gas, lost, no phone, can't call my husband for help. There's nowhere around to stop and ask anyone to use their phone or ask for directions. It's like nothing but trees around. It's getting dark. So I don't know how, but I, you know, decided to just keep driving. And I ended up out on a main road that I recognized and got back to the gas station. So I turned off the car and decided to check my account balance. And lucky me, there was no deposit from the couple I was supposed to be shooting. So normally how that process went, I would take a deposit before I went to the shoot, and then they would pay the rest, well, a booking fee or whatever, and they would pay the rest when they got their photos so that things like this wouldn't happen. So, you know, I'm like, everything seems to be going wrong, but I got to get home. So I remembered I had, like, gas points. I literally was at the pump. So I was at the pump, and I was like, you know what? I didn't get the money I thought I was going to get. I'm just going to, I don't know. So I remember I had gas points at, like a Kroger, the grocery store gas station. I had points, so I was going to, you know, get more for the buck. I decided to save some money right there. Decided to be economical. So, and it was only like a mile away. So, nope. I went to start the car, and it wouldn't start. So I went inside, asked the attendant to use the phone, and I called my the towing company, like AAA or something, and described to them what was happening because I wasn't even thinking. And they were like, "Oh, it sounds like your transmission's going." And I'm like, "No, the transmission. I don't know anything about cars, but I know that the transmission is very important." And thankfully, like, my mechanic was like a block away, but they weren't open. So I just called the tow to drop the car and then called them in the morning. And I called my husband to come get me and had to explain why he couldn't get in touch with his, like, extra pregnant wife for the last couple hours. So he was panicked. And anyway, not important, but turns out, you know, there was no reason to even call that tow, like I said, because the only problem was there was no gas in the tank. So I paid a mechanic to take apart my engine because apparently they didn't think of it either. And that was a nice bill, only to laugh about it the next day. Like, there was no gas. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I forgot, because I was doing all that extra stuff and getting stood up at an appointment. And I got mom brain, and I'm tired and, you know, exhausted. So I guess the lesson learned from this incident is to know when to stop and reset. So, you know, that was my issue. I kept going and going, and it took me too long to realize I needed a break, you know. You can't let your emotions get you gassed up, pun intended, and you end up making decisions that work against you. And it's like it was a series of little things, but it turned into this big thing that it really didn't need to be. You know, there was no way for me to know that the couple wouldn't show up, but that's always a possibility. You know, in that line of work, it's always a possibility that they're not going to show up, and it should have been factored in. You know, not remember to check to make sure the invoice was paid before I left the house, charging my phone, making sure the tank was full. You know, that was on me as well. So I was so caught up in this, like, being the last shoot that I didn't think to check those things. And, you know, I also had anxieties about, you know, going into the delivery room and stuff like that, you know. But the point is, life happens. But a lot of the struggle we get into, if we're truly being honest, can be minimized, if not downright preventable. So, you know, having a clear head is so important, especially when you have a lot going on, like having kids and having a hustle. So you know, anyway, enough about me and my shenanigans and my hot mess pregnancy stories. I'm going to go ahead and answer some of the questions that I got from other moms. One of the questions I get a lot is, when is the right time to start a business? So as you just heard, my situation was not ideal, but I made it work. You know, there really is no perfect time. It sounds a little cliche, and I mean, you just got to trust your gut in it, but also, I mean, it should be calculated as well. If you know you want to start a business, the right time to start will be when you actually start, when you plan to start. So don't get into your emotions, you know, in that regard. You know, a lot of us get excited. We're passionate about, you know, typically the business you're going into is passionate. You know, you're passionate about that thing. So that can sometimes cloud your judgment and your decision. So I guess some things to consider just off the top of my head is your strategy. So how you plan to, first research. You need to research everything to do with what you're trying to accomplish. So do you need to take courses to catch up, or are you already there? Are you a natural talent, or do you need help in some areas? You know, research the laws that you might need to adhere to. Definitely your business license, that's depending on what state you're in. How much is that going to cost? You know, speaking of cost, you should create a budget. You know where your funding is going to come from to start, and know what your expenses are going to be. So definitely focus on that. And then the other thing is, you know, get yourself some, excuse me, allies, and start creating a support system. You're not going to be able to do this alone. And that's not, you know, all doomsday type of energy I'm trying to give to it. It's no one has done it alone. Anybody that says they did is a lie and a fraud, because that's not true. No matter what business you're in, it is a people's business. You need people, okay? So it's best to just start thinking about who you want on your team, you know, so that, and then just get into it, you know. I can't say that I was the planning person. I am now. I wasn't the planning person. So, you know, I hit some bumps because of that. And I had to learn to be disciplined in that. A lot of that came from having my daughter. And necessarily have to worry too hard, but it is important. And it's like you can't plan for every single thing that's going to pop up, but you can definitely plan for what you do know. So, another question. Oh, where are we at for time? We got 3 minutes in. I'm not sure if I should start this next one or whatnot before the break. So, yeah. I guess I can start the question, and then if we run over, then I can continue answering and just revisit it. But another question I get is, how do you manage balancing your family needs and your business needs? So this is a pretty extensive list, so we should have a little bit of time. So, it goes back to that planning word. You know, you kind of need to be the queen of planning and organizing and, you know, stick to your plan. So I know I had that problem. I continue to work through that problem where I know what to do. I've set a plan to do something, and then the action falls off. So it's not enough to just make the plan, know what to do. You have to actually put the action behind it. So, you know, and it's not just plans for the business. So basically, you know, your family has to eat, right? You know, everybody has to eat every day. So that is something that you can plan for. So if you go on Pinterest, there's a ton of meal prep ideas. Get a crock pot, especially during these winter months. That's like my strongest asset is that crock pot. Throw everything in the pot in the morning, turn it on, walk away, go do what I need to do. It's not going to explode. It's not going to overfill. It's going to cook. It's going to be delicious. And then the one I have is enough for us to have leftovers for the next day and the next day. So I try to get as much into that as possible. So, like, you know, you need food every day. You know that your business has a annual fee to run. The most states have that. You pay an annual fee after you register. So are you going to wait till you get a notice to pay that? Or are you going to say, I have to pay that on this time? So, you know, thinking ahead, even for those little things. So that's one. What else is there? So I'm going to go back to pretty much, you know, everything that can be done in advance. So in terms of marketing, if you have like a product-based business, you know the holiday schedule. We learned that when we were in kindergarten, you know. So a lot of people were saying they were not prepared this Valentine's Day, or they had, you know, low sales again. And it's like there's a pattern, you know, where this date comes around every year. So there really is no reason to miss out on the opportunity of however many $1 billion that people spend on that. If your business fits into, you know, the Valentine's Day model, or the Valentine's Day hype, I should say, then you should have plans for that. So there's that. So one way that you can not just plan for it, but one way that you can stay on top of it, I should say, and stay focused is to get a planner if you don't have one, an actual in-your-hands planner. I'm not a fan of digital. I don't know why. It doesn't stick for me. If I write it down, it's there. So I'm going with writing things down. It's like something happens subconsciously. You see it, you wrote it, and it reads back to your mind, and it's there. It exists. So I think it's harder to walk away from that versus instantly dismissing a message on your phone. You know, we clear notifications all the time without even reading them. So having something written down and tangible. And if you have a family, a big family, then having a calendar, like a whiteboard calendar, if you don't want to invest in a big one that's already like set up, you can actually go to Lowe's and they have marker board. And I think it's like $3 for the panel. And it's a whiteboard. And then you get markers and you make your own calendar and your to-do list so that everyone in the house is aware of the plan. So you make the plan and then you share the plan with everyone so everyone can work towards that with you, your support system. The people who matter. I mean, don't go around putting your plan out there on the interwebs and then get mad when people beat you to the punch. Don't do that. But definitely.
Black Talk Radio Network. For podcasts and live program scheduling, visit us on the web at blacktalkradionetwork.com.
Hi, the Black Talk Media Project would like to invite you to become a member of the BTR Community subscription-based social media platform. BTR Community is a platform that was set up for the listening audience of Black Talk Radio Network, the #1 independent Black radio network online. For just $24 per year, your subscription gives you access to an interactive space to share information with like-minded people with your privacy guaranteed. Your subscription will go a long way to help us maintain and improve our current media platforms. It will also help provide a budget so that we can begin the task of establishing localized media centers and radio stations across the United States. The best way to show your support and appreciation for what we do here at Black Talk Radio is to subscribe. Help us to help you be informed. Join btrcommunity.com today.
Okay, we're getting back to how do you manage balancing family and business. We talked about planning pretty much everything that you can think of and having a plan for it. And then, being proactive, that's always a good tip. But one of the things I want to stress about is asking for help. So that's why I said, one of the things that I wish that I did more was ask for help, and having that once you've set up your support system, actually use them. Don't feel like, not use them in the sense of take advantage of them, but, utilize that resource. That's what they're signed up for. So, you really can't do everything. And I know, from experience, that you want to be the best. You want to be the best mom. I used to strive to be that super crunchy granola mom that had her life together, had the long hair, don't care, flowing in the wind, and being on top of that while also being at the top of my game in my industry. And it always comes to a crossroads. You are always going to have to make a choice. That's part of life, part of this hustle is what is going to get cut, because everything is important. So how do you prioritize in that regard, So you cannot be the one doing everything. And the way to get around making those cuts is to outsource. So I remember having a conversation with my mentor at the time, and she was just going down the list. What are you going to let go of? What are you going to let go of? And I was having a hard time because everything, I wanted to keep everything. And it just wasn't possible. So, if it got to the point where when I had 2 kids, it was a little bit more difficult than just managing one and the business. You know, they're very close in age, double trouble. It's a real thing. So I started considering getting a permanent child care situation. And I didn't end up doing it. I didn't end up needing to do it because I figured the rest of the stuff out. But the point is like everything needs to be done, but you don't have to be the one doing it, you know? So maybe you can, I see a lot of people, what's hot now is getting a virtual assistant. So if you can find someone that's willing to work for, you know, the price that you set and they're trustworthy and they're running your social media page, that's a huge lift. A lot of us rely on social media to market our services and communicate with our buyers. And some of us run Facebook groups. It would be nice to not be the person that's in there actively doing that. Like, you can be the one to create the content, but engaging with it might be time consuming. You can't do that and then also be meeting with a wholesale buyer, you know? So basically, a lot of us mamas are, I wouldn't call us control freaks. It's just, you know, we're trying to do it all, and that's not really possible. So ask for help and then let people do it. So the last one I'm going to answer, and so that we can hopefully take some calls, is I keep getting asked and I keep seeing posted online about pricing. People don't know how to price their products and services. And, you know, some of the feedback I keep seeing is people say, they're saying their prices are too high. And then it's like just as many people saying their prices are too low. So I wanted to explain a little bit about that trope. That, you know, that's an example of brand miscommunication. If people are seeing a price and they're saying it doesn't match, then that's, you know, an error and it needs to be fixed. You know, it's very important, the perceived value of your products and services. But what I don't like is that people, the advice that is being given is to simply change to what people say it is. And, you know, the idea that the market determines what people are willing to pay. And I don't believe that's true. So, well, I mean, there is a certain level, but that doesn't mean that you have to change your setup to that, especially if it's not working. So for the people that are, you know, are saying that their prices are too high, that looks a little like there's a breakdown in what you're saying the value of the product is in terms of like how good it is. So it could be your copy might be off. You might not be really selling the benefits of the product or service. You might just be talking about the features of it. You know, what is it? It's features tell you what the product is, but the benefits is what makes people want to buy it. So if you're not telling them the benefits and how it's going to help them, because people are inherently in the what's in it for me camp. So, you know, that's, I find, usually the issue with the too high sayers. And then also, you could be talking to the wrong people. So you need a grip on who the people are that you're talking to, your target audience. So it's too high for some people. It's just right for the people you want, okay? So you got to find out who those people are, and there's ways to go about that. But the prices being too low, that's another problem too. So I find the people who are setting their prices on quote-unquote too low, they are on the race to the bottom strategy. And that doesn't work either, especially for micro businesses. So there's ways around that. If you are not, and it usually roots in confidence. So they're pricing their product low because they feel that that's the only way that it will sell. But it's not true. Every single time I have raised my prices, my sales have doubled. Every time it's happened. So I look at that like I'm getting what I need, and I'm getting more confidence to know that I have something special. And there's people who have it. You know, there's people who really have that natural talent, and they're still selling themselves short. That's their business. That's what they want to do. But for those who are selling themselves too short and they don't want to, you have to look at it. Look at that. What is your confidence looking like? Why are you selling a product? For example, an artist was afraid to raise the price of one of her items that, let's say, was $100, because that would mean that she only got 6 orders a month at $600. I don't know anyone that can live, even a single person, on $600 a month. Okay, so that aside, realistically, her price could go up to $350 each. Well, let's say $300 for easy now. Instead of selling 6 and working on 6 of those, she could get away with just doing 2. And that would free up the rest of her time. So she wouldn't be spending all month making 6. She would spend half the month making 2. You know what I'm saying? So half the month making 2, and then being able to utilize her time to do other things, potentially bring in more business, have more time to market, have more time to talk to galleries to get her pieces in there. Oops, my phone is on. So there's that. And I'm checking the time. It's 8:44. So if anyone wants to go ahead and ask any questions, I would be happy to do that.
Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hi, this is Scotty, your audio engineer, and we do want to give out that phone number. The phone number is 704-802-5056. That's 704-802-5056. Regular listeners, y'all know to hit star on your keypad. But we don't have any questions at the moment, but I do. Or just an experience. Like, we do podcast hosting, digital radio, internet radio, whatever people call it, hosting. We lease out radio streams. And we've been around for 9 years, Black Talk Media Project, which is the nonprofit, but it is a business. But our pricing is based on what the market dictates. And the market, in terms of like storage space, in terms of podcast hosting, like for example, one of the competitors would be like SoundCloud. Well, SoundCloud has monthly accounts I think as low as $8, but where they get you is on the back end. You know, the monthly fee increase for more storage space, whereas because we have an unlimited resource through our resources, our contacts. It's unlimited hosting, and it's just $10 a month. So I'm thinking my problem
value
might be not so much value, but in terms of marketing. Because I would think, most of the black podcasters, especially after we was featured in this black publication as being the only black-owned podcasting, of course, adding in the digital radio, but you just have all podcasting sites out there. So I guess you would consider them, like a competitor, although they're not offering the other services that we offer, but just in that area of podcasting, of distributing your podcast, people being able to download your podcast, giving you the numbers of how many people you're reaching, all of that type of stuff. And I would think that black podcasters hearing upon our site, not that they would leave the other places, but because the cost is so low and the growth of the popularity of podcasting, I would think black podcasters would be flocking to us, but they're not. So so my thing right now is coming up with a campaign marketing directly to black podcasters.
You know what is working for you guys? Because, I mean, this is how I came about, is word of mouth. So in terms of marketing, it's like, how can you use that? How can you leverage that? Because, I mean, you said you've been featured. Do you have PR? Do you have a publicist?
No. I'm pretty much everything except for a couple of people in some support positions.
Okay. So you are, I would say, a media company, right?
Yes.
What's the
media
overarching
education
media
organization will be the legal terminology, because we're under a school charter or education charter in the state of North Carolina, but we you know, our whole mission is about media education in terms of learning how to produce media, as well as dissemination of media, elevating black voices, because we had that minority status, you know what I'm saying? And so we are filling a public service need as well. So, but that's how we're registered, as a nonprofit media education organization, but we do
very, very
produce
marketable
and distribute it.
And so, I mean, a good relationship with a good PR rep, and y'all are set. Y'all are set with that. That would be their expertise. I mean, like, by definition, that's what they do. Connect media outlets to people.
Could you say that
people
again?
To media outlets.
But okay, right. I understand that. But who I'm marketing to, though, is paying subscribers, paying podcasters who pay $10 a month, their subscription fee, or any other services that we provide.
Okay, so where do those people, not necessarily in terms of like your competitors, but what are the current channels and where they get the information that you offer, the services that you offer? Like, what do you really know about those people? Like, where do they hang out?
Social media.
What do they hang out with social media?
Right.
Which ones, you know?
Well, if we're looking at black podcasters,
like where I like to listen to podcasts in my car, like like actually getting into the mind and the body of those people and getting to know like their day-to-day activities. That's when you can start really making moves. So if you know that most people are listening to their podcasts while they're driving, what does that say about them? You know, and then you can be able to come up with like highly super niche targeted advertising. And like you said, the marketing is the issue. So I'm not looking at the PR person, because they are the most trained to know how to get in front of your audiences.
Right. So in terms of reaching people and the advertisement side of it, that's not our concern. What I'm trying to market to is a specific audience, and that's to bring black podcasters. Like, for example, people like yourself. I was just reading an article written by a black entrepreneur, and she was talking about the importance of doing a podcast for businesses where you know, and that's what we do. So that's a marketing service that these people could use with the growth. And you can get us in the vehicle. We're listed on TuneIn and all the major listings. You find Black Talk Radio everywhere. So we're not worried about, you know, so much as distribution, because like you mentioned, we got very strong word of mouth, and
I see what you mean. You're not worried. You're not.
We're looking for content producers.
You're not talking about the listeners. You're talking about the speakers.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Okay. The influencers. That's what you call them. Those would be the influencers. Those types of people are, you know, they show up. They usually are heart driven. So they're showing up to places like authors, speakers. They go to events. They go to a lot of, think of the keynote speakers. How do you talk to them? You know, how do you get in front of them so that they can decide to have their podcast? And there's a lot of them. So, I mean, the women are showing up in terms of Black business owners. The women are showing up and showing out. They are. So, you know, I can see a couple women. I don't want to drop their names, but there's these moguls, for lack of a word, that their mission is to build up Black businesses. So it's like right there you've got a whole market to talk to bring them onto your platform. I mean, these people were using Blab for their platform or iTunes.
Or
there was...
Yeah, they're everywhere, but we're here as well, and we're the only Black owned. You know, with that, if you're looking to target Black people, Black Talk Radio, not saying that's your sole primary audience, but if that's the audience that you want to reach, then you do up to 3-hour podcasts. Again, podcasts aren't live broadcasts, so, you know, you will make them at your leisure. Like you mentioned, they go out to these conventions or whatnot. They can have a pocket recorder and do interviews on the spot right there, you know, just kind of behind the scenes, whatever it is, that it's all podcastable while putting your brand out there. It's a very cheap form of marketing. It's actually what podcasting is. Yes. So like our service is like only $10 a month. Unlimited podcast uploads and hosting. The only limit is per file. So I need to work on a campaign, but see, it's not the listeners that I'm marketing that I'm trying to get to use the service. It's what you deem the influencers, and I would say the influencers, where to find those. I'm sure there's various, you know, professional publications and stuff you can look at, but Twitter, you know.
Yes, and I was going to say the beauty of them is they are loud. That's the beauty of them. They are loud, so they're out there. You know, you can actually find them, like you said, on Twitter. Twitter, a lot of them are on Instagram. I don't think really, I would say Facebook is trending down. Like, they'll have Facebook pages, but they mostly have Facebook groups. They don't have Facebook pages. They're working in the groups because they take more time to do one-on-one conversations. The bulk of their money comes from consultations. So they're more focused on building one-on-one relationships. So they have their groups. So you can, you know, look through groups and look for the tags that say, like, motivational speaker. That's the first thing I think of when you talk about, you know, what is an influencer who would have a podcast. They're the first ones I think of. And if you type in motivational speaker for Facebook groups, I'm sure you can find a lot. Join them. They don't mind you there. Don't advertise your service. Build a relationship with them, and invite them to expand their platform. And I'm sure they'll be interested.
Understood. Thank you. So do you have any closing remarks for us after this, your first broadcast as a guest host on BIB Radio?
Oh, yes. Speaking of Facebook groups, I don't like to title myself as a motivational speaker, so ignore the fact that I'm about to link you guys to facebook.com/groups/Black Mompreneurs. That is our Black Business Moms group, and that's where we have all the love and support for mommies on this journey. And I want to thank you, Scotty, for helping me out and having me on the show.
You're very welcome, and we hope you'll come back either as a podcaster or as a guest host on BIB Radio. You have a good evening.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a great evening.